Human behavior is never random. Even the most spontaneous seeming actions are, upon closer inspection, guided by some form of underlying motivation. Whether we pursue academic excellence, seek social connection, avoid pain, or strive for transcendence, our behaviors are animated by internal and external forces that psychologists have long sought to understand. The study of motivation, the set of processes that initiate, guide, and sustain goal-directed behavior, sits at the intersection of biology, cognition, emotion, and culture. It addresses a central question of human existence. Why do we do what we do? Theories of motivation have evolved in complexity over the course of psychological history, moving from instinctual and mechanistic models to nuanced frameworks that integrate affect, cognition, and social context. Early perspectives, such as those of William James and Sigmund Freud, viewed motivation as largely rooted in innate drives and unconscious impulses. James proposed a range of biological instincts, innate tendencies that drive behavior without prior learning, while Freud theorized that behavior is largely driven by unconscious desires and the conflict between primal drives, the ID, internalized norms, the superego, and rational mediation, the ego. Although these psychodynamic and instinct theories have been largely superseded in empirical psychology, they laid the groundwork for recognizing motivation as a layered and sometimes hidden force. A significant turning point came with the emergence of drive reduction theory, particularly in the behaviorist tradition. Clark Hull, 1943, proposed that physiological needs create internal states of tension, drives, that motivate organisms to engage in behaviors that reduce this tension and restore homeostasis. Hunger, thirst, and sexual arousal, for example, were seen as biological deficits that propel action until the need is satisfied. This mechanistic model captured important truths about primary motivation, but struggled to account for behaviors not linked to physiological deficits, such as curiosity, exploration, or the pursuit of meaning. Why would someone climb a mountain, write a symphony, or voluntarily fast? To address these limitations, psychologists began to explore more complex and intrinsically oriented theories of motivation. Among the most enduring is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a humanistic model that proposes a pyramid of motivational levels. At the base are physiological needs, followed by safety, love and belonging, esteem, and finally self-actualization, the fulfillment of one's potential and the pursuit of meaning. Although later refinements and empirical critiques have challenged the rigid hierarchical structure of Maslow's model, its core insight remains influential. Not all motivation is about deficit reduction. Some of it is about growth, purpose, and becoming fully human. Maslow, 1943. Building on this insight, Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory, SDT, offers one of the most comprehensive and empirically validated frameworks for understanding human motivation. According to SDT, individuals have three basic psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness, that are essential for psychological growth, integrity, and well-being. Motivation is seen not as a binary of intrinsic versus extrinsic, but rather as a continuum ranging from a motivation, lack of intention, to external regulation, driven by rewards or punishments, to introjected regulation, driven by internalized pressure, to identified regulation, alignment with personal values, and finally to intrinsic motivation, engagement in behavior for its inherent satisfaction. Deci and Ryan, 2000. The practical applications of SDT are vast. In education, students who feel autonomous, competent, and socially connected are more likely to engage deeply with learning. In the workplace, employees thrive when they feel their work is meaningful, when they are given a degree of self-direction, and when they receive constructive feedback. In clinical settings, motivation is key to treatment adherence and long-term change. A person seeking to quit smoking, for instance, is more likely to succeed if the motivation arises from personally endorsed values rather than external pressure or guilt. Cognitive theories of motivation further emphasize the role of beliefs, expectations, and goals in shaping behavior. Expectancy value theory posits that motivation depends on two key factors: the belief that one can succeed at a task, expectancy, and the perceived importance or usefulness of the task, value. Eccles and Wigfield, 2002. If either factor is low, motivation suffers. A student who believes she is capable in mathematics and who sees the subject as useful for her future is more likely to persist and perform well. This model offers a clear explanation for why motivation can falter even when external conditions appear supportive. Without perceived competence and relevance, engagement will likely diminish. Another pivotal cognitive theory is goal-setting theory, advanced by Edwin Locke and Gary Latham. Their research demonstrated that specific, challenging goals, when accepted and accompanied by feedback, lead to higher performance than vague or easy goals. Locke and Latham, 2002. Motivation is thus seen as a dynamic feedback loop in which progress toward a valued goal increases effort and persistence, especially when setbacks are interpreted as information rather than failure. This has profound implications for coaching, education, and organizational behavior. Emotions also play a crucial motivational role. The affect as information hypothesis suggests that emotions function as heuristics for motivation and decision-making. For instance, anxiety might motivate avoidance or increased preparation. Joy might enhance engagement. Guilt might promote reparative actions. Emotions provide rapid, evaluative information about the desirability and urgency of goals. Moreover, emotionally salient experiences are more likely to be encoded and remembered, shaping future behavior. Thus, affect and motivation are mutually reinforcing systems. From a neuroscientific perspective, motivation is closely tied to the brain's reward systems. The mesolimbic dopamine pathway, particularly involving the nucleus accumbens and ventral tegmental area, plays a central role in reward anticipation, reinforcement learning, and effort-related decision-making. Dopamine does not simply signal pleasure, it encodes the expected value of outcomes and fuels the pursuit of goals. Berridge and Robinson, 1998. This has been elegantly demonstrated in experiments showing that animals will work harder for rewards associated with higher dopamine signaling, even when the pleasure itself is held constant. Importantly, motivational deficits such as anhedonia, apathy, or amotivation are core features of numerous psychiatric conditions, including depression, schizophrenia, and Parkinson's disease. In real-world terms, motivational dynamics manifest in every domain of life. Consider an athlete training for a marathon. Their behavior may be sustained by a mix of intrinsic enjoyment, love of running, identified regulation, commitment to health, and external factors, competition, social recognition. Similarly, a parent may be motivated to work late into the night, not by immediate pleasure, but by a deep sense of responsibility and care for the family. Understanding the complex motivational profile behind actions allows for more empathetic relationships and more effective interventions. However, motivation can be manipulated, distorted, or suppressed. Extrinsic rewards, if poorly calibrated, can undermine intrinsic motivation, a phenomenon known as the over-justification effect. For example, paying children to draw may reduce their future interest in drawing when the payment is removed. Deci et al., 1999. Similarly, social environments that are controlling, critical, or disconnected from one's values can erode motivation, leading to burnout or disengagement. These insights are especially relevant in educational and organizational contexts, where motivation is often treated as a means to an end rather than as a complex living system requiring care and intentional design. This leads us to deeper philosophical and ethical questions. What should we be motivated by? How do we distinguish between healthy aspiration and compulsive striving? Is motivation always desirable, or can it sometimes be a trap, driving individuals to chase achievements that leave them empty or alienated? What role do societal narratives, cultural values, and economic systems play in shaping what we come to desire. In conclusion, theories of motivation reveal that human behavior is governed not by a single force, but by a constellation of interwoven drives, needs, goals, and emotions. From the hunger that compels us to eat to the existential yearning for purpose, motivation animates the full spectrum of human action. The most effective and ethical applications of motivational theory, whether in education, therapy, business, or policy, are those that honor the whole person, not just as a consumer of incentives, but as an agent seeking meaning, autonomy, and connection. By understanding why we do what we do, we are better equipped to live with intentionality, to support others with wisdom, and to shape environments that invite human flourishing.